welcome to State Summer Camp's online sessions. We are very excited to have you participate in our online session today. And we are going to be making our delicious zucchini coconut chocolate chip cookies from our popular camp, Fitness and Fuel. So my name is Keisha. For those of you that have been in our sessions before, you may recognize me. And if this is the first time you're tuning in, please note that we do record these sessions and then post them to our website following its completion. However, we cannot see or hear you because it's a webinar style Zoom call, so you don't have to worry about that. So if you have all of the supplies today from the list that we sent out last week, that is excellent. You'll be able to follow along with us. And then if you don't, that's okay too. And you're just tuning in to watch, that's totally fine. We'll be posting this video on our website, and then you can follow along at a later time or make these cookies again for your family or friends if you like. So for those of you that have everything to go, we will get started in just a moment. Okay, and so if you have any questions at any time, need me to slow down, repeat an instruction, anything like that, you can just comment in the chat box, which is in the bottom middle of most screens for Zoom. I also have my partner in crime, Allison, behind the scenes today. She's going to be manning the chat box, and if there's any questions from you guys, you can put them in there, and then she'll read them to me on screen so you can hear the question and I'll answer it, hopefully. And then we will now get started with a few questions for you folks. So we just want to get to know you a bit better and see who our audience is today. So I'm going to turn off my screen and Allison's going to put on a presentation. Okay, so question number one, you guys can leave your answers in the chat box below. So who has attended an online camp session with us before? Oh, awesome. That's so great. So a ton of you have been with us already. Welcome back. We're so happy. You must have enjoyed our last session if you're returning. We are going to make some cookies again this time, so sorry if it's a bit repetitive, but these cookies taste very different and are quite delicious. So welcome back, and for those of you that are new joining us, we are happy to have you as well. Okay, so question number two. Who has previous experience baking or cooking on their own? So once again, you can submit your answers through the chat box below. We're just trying to get an idea. Oh gosh, so many of you have. That's awesome. We'll be able to move along at a nice speed today, I'm sure. And that's great. Okay. Excellent. So thank you so much for sharing your answers with us. Like I said earlier, if you have any questions at any time, feel free to drop them in the chat for me. This just gives me a better idea of who you all are and how fast we can move along for the session today. So before we get started on the cookies, there are a few quick housekeeping items to go over. Most of you have experience, as you said, so I won't spend too much time here, but it's important to exercise caution when using your oven. Please, as I'm sure you already know, make sure to use oven mitts when you're handling anything in the oven because it will be very hot. If you have long hair like mine, please make sure it's tied back as no one likes hair in their food. And then number three, I will just pause after I say this one, which is wash your hands before handling ingredients. I think that's a pretty obvious, or there's a pretty obvious reason why we do that one, but I'll give everyone just a moment here to go wash your hands. I did right before we started this video, so I'm not going to do it again, but if you haven't, please take a minute or two to go wash your hands. So I'll just wait a couple seconds before I keep going. And then number four, I'll read just while we're waiting for everyone washing their hands. But please ask lots of questions today. We want to make sure everyone enjoys the session today. There really are no bad questions at all, so be sure to ask if you're wondering about something. I will give a small disclaimer that I'm certainly not a professional baker, but have made this recipe in camp and will do my best to answer your questions or to find out the right answer if I'm not sure of something. But yes, yeah, some of you may even recognize me from summer camps before if you've been to our in-person ones, because I've been around for a couple of years. Okay, so now hopefully everyone has washed your hands. We're going to move on to the ingredient list. I'm just going to review it quickly to make sure everyone has everything they need. If you have any questions about substitutions or allergens, just feel free to ask in the chat box. But today we are going to need 1 cup of white or whole wheat flour. We will need 1 teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, 4 tablespoons of coconut oil, melted and cooled to room temperature. I've left my coconut oil out on my counter overnight just so it can warm up a little bit. So if you have yours in the fridge right now, that's totally fine, but you should probably take it out soon. So I just saw a question, can we half the recipe? Yes, you absolutely can half the recipe. That's no problem at all. That just means you'll have to half each ingredient. So I'll let you be the mathematician there because that is not my area of expertise by any means. So yes, you can half the recipe. This recipe makes about, I would say, 1.5 to 2 dozen cookies. So it doesn't make a ton of cookies. So if you're halving it, you're probably going to get about 12 cookies, maybe a few less, just so you know. And then if you do choose to make the whole recipe like I am today, these cookies freeze super well. So you can put them in the freezer if you don't want to eat them all in the next couple days. And then to continue with the ingredient list, we're going to use half a cup of dark brown sugar. If you have light brown sugar, that works just as well. We'll use a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, which is white sugar. We will use 1 large egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 cup of shredded zucchini. One thing to note about the zucchini is that I have already shredded mine. So if you have your zucchini whole right now, well, we're just preparing and getting ready to go. If you want to grate or food process your zucchini quickly just so you can keep up with the recipe, that would be great. Because I did shred mine before, so we can move along a bit faster. So if you have a moment now, you can start grating or food processing your zucchini to get into small, tiny little pieces. We'll also use 2 cups of old-fashioned oats, half a cup of sweetened coconut flakes, unsweetened is fine too. And the last ingredient, my favorite, 3/4 of a cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. So just add coconut oil and coconut flakes in this recipe. So if you are allergic, you know, you definitely. Oh, hi there, can everyone hear me okay? Sorry, there just seemed to be a technical issue on our end, so I'm so sorry. I think my computer might just have disconnected from the internet, so I apologize. I am very sorry about that. So we will keep going. Hopefully you guys have all of the ingredients ready to go. We're gonna get started in just a moment here. So now that the housekeeping has gone over, you have your ingredients ready, I think we're ready to get started. So if you have any questions at any time, just drop them in the chat box. And I apologize for that glitch. I'm not sure what happened there. So hopefully everyone can hear and see me all right. Okay, so I'm going to turn the oven on as a very first step to 350 degrees Celsius. So please go turn on your ovens again. They usually take about 10 or 15 minutes to warm up, so we want to make sure they're good to go by the time we're done mixing our batter. And so the next thing I will do is get my cookie sheet ready to go. So here I have my cookie sheet, and then I have a piece of parchment paper on it. If you have parchment paper, you can lay it down and add it to your sheet. If you don't have it, that's all right too. You'll just have to use a spatula to get your cookies off. And then we'll set that aside. Okay, so today, like I did in the last video, I'm going to be hand mixing just because I know not everyone has a mixer. So I might be a little bit slower than you, and I apologize if that's the case. But I'm going to get started. And then if you have a mixer, you just might be a little bit ahead of the game. So, okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our egg and we're going to crack it and add 1 egg to our mix. Oops. So that is the number 1. And I'm actually going to get Allison to switch camera angles here. So she's going to just put it on my bowl so you can see everything I'm adding. Okay, sorry, it's just taking a second. So if you have a black screen, I apologize. Oh, it looks like it's still on Allison, so we'll just get the camera flipped around here. Okay, perfect. Can everyone see my bowl? I just have added the egg so far. If you can't see the screen, please let Allison know. Oh, see, so some people can't see it. We'll just make sure that this video is spotlighted. Sorry, I won't go any further till everyone can see. So, is everyone good now? Okay, I see some comments saying now you can see it. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so we will get going. I apologize for all the technical issues. I'm sorry, we are just a mess over here today. So, okay, so the first thing is the egg. The next thing is the coconut oil. Pardon me, coconut oil. So we're going to add 4 tablespoons of our coconut oil here. So we'll take our tablespoon. Like I did last video, I like to use a butter knife to help scoop it out. So hopefully it's at room temperature. If your coconut oil is not at room temperature, please just, put it in a cup, pop it in the microwave, and then you should be able to get it out, no problem. Okay, so we're adding 4 tablespoons of coconut oil. And it's okay if it's a little bit hard, you just don't want it too hard that you can't mix it. So that's 1. This is number 2, the coconut oil. We want 4 tablespoons. 3. And some of you guys might be better bakers or chefs than I am, so I'm so sorry if I'm slow. And 4 here. Do you want to hear a story about coconut oil while we're mixing that I foolishly did the last time I made this recipe? So I had my coconut oil in my fridge actually, and I needed it to get cooled down, and it was so hard I actually couldn't get it out of the jar. So I just threw this lovely little container in the microwave, and that was extremely foolish, and I don't recommend it because obviously it started on fire because of the paper wrapper. So never put your coconut oil container in the microwave. That was the lesson I learned. So now we're just going to start mixing our coconut oil in with our egg. If it's a little chunky, you'll just have to mix really well. And then it's okay if it's not perfect and all the chunks are broken, because as we mix more, we should be able to get that out. Okay, so that's mixed in now. So now we're going to add our teaspoon of vanilla, as well as our teaspoon of baking soda and salt. So I know it's kind of odd that I put these dry ingredients in right now, but it's okay to mix these ones in earlier. So I'm going to start with my baking soda, and I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of that. So we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So just that. And then before I mix that, I'm also going to add half a teaspoon of salt. If you're not a big salt person, it's okay to omit this one as well. So I'm just taking my teaspoon and doing about half there. And then before I mix again, I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. So we have my vanilla right here, and we're going to do 1 teaspoon. So I'm just going to check in with Allison. Are there any questions in the chat box that I haven't got to?
Nope, you're all good.
Okay, excellent. That's awesome.
Sorry, one question. How much baking powder?
For the baking powder, we would like, it's actually baking soda. So baking powder and baking soda are different. They do have similar effects, but you want 1 teaspoon. So if you're doing baking powder, you can probably do similar, but to be honest with you, I haven't tried this recipe with the powder instead of the soda. So you'll have to let me know how it turns out, but I think it should be okay. So don't worry if that's what you have. Okay, so that was super easy to mix in. So we're going to move on to the next ingredient, which is the zucchini. So hopefully you have it shredded and you can just add it in, but if you don't, no worries, we can wait a few minutes. So I'm taking my beautiful shredded zucchini. It's in season, it's delicious right now, and we're doing a cup of it, so that's quite a bit. So we will add that in. Okay, so that's half a cup. We want 1 cup of zucchini. How are we doing for speed here? Is anyone finding this too fast or too slow? If one or the other is the case, feel free to drop a comment in the chat box. Or maybe I'm just boring you to death, which I hope is not the case.
Somebody said a bit fast.
A bit fast. Okay, no worries. I'm so sorry. That's why I ask, is so I can slow down for you. Okay, so I'm going to set my zucchini aside. I know some of you might have to shred it, so I will just slow down a bit here. We'll take a little extra time to mix this. The zucchini, there's a lot of it, so it's going to take up most of your mixture here. Okay. So it's really nice that a lot of you came back for our session. It's great to see some familiar names. We always like to see returning campers in person and online too. We have one more question. What is the question?
Does all of the coconut oil need to be mixed in?
So the thing about coconut oil is as soon as it gets cold, it's tricky because it hardens. So as soon as you put the cold, maybe zucchini or the cold egg in, you might see little chunks of coconut oil. That's okay. That's not a big deal. It's just because it's the change of temperature. And so it's okay if it's chunking a little because when we bake it, it will melt down a bit. But do, maybe if you're seeing like lots of chunks, you can just grab a fork and just try to smash some of them down, which, you can probably see in my mixture right now, there are some chunks. So I'm going to grab a fork. I'm just going to try to get some of those chunks down a bit. Was there any other questions, Allison?
Nope. All good.
Okay, excellent. So I'm just taking my fork and I'm gonna smash some of those little chunks. And I'll just keep it aside because we might actually use that fork again. It's a big chunk again. But we're mostly adding ingredients now that won't be cold, or they shouldn't be cold at least. So hopefully it doesn't chunk too much. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next ingredient in just a second here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's see. Our next ingredient is the sugar. So we're going to add half a cup of brown sugar, and then we're going to do a 1/4 cup of white sugar. So it doesn't matter which you put in first. You can add both at the same time, and then we'll mix. So I'm adding in my 1/4 cup of white sugar, or brown sugar. And then I'm going to set that aside. Sorry, I have this nice big bag, so it's pretty loud. And then we're going to do half a cup of brown sugar. And I don't know what it is about brown sugar, but it's such a mess to get out of the bag for some reason. I think I just need to put a larger bowl. So that's a 1/4 cup. And then here's my half cup. And to be honest, usually brown sugar should be packed pretty tight, but in this recipe, it doesn't make a huge difference if it is or not, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Okay, so once you have the brown sugar and the white sugar in, you can mix it very well. You really want this to get mixed in as best you can, so we'll just give it a good mix. And yeah, you can probably see in my mixture, there's definitely some chunks of the coconut oil. That's okay. Okay, and so at this point, it's gonna look like a very terrible soup. It's going to be like all brown and mushy and green chunks. Don't worry, I promise you it tastes much better than it looks. Oh, is there a question? No questions? Okay, just wanted to check in. And I am getting some of my ingredients stuck in my spatula, so I'm just going to take my fork and get them.
So yes.
Oh, there is one question.
How much zucchini do you need?
So for the zucchini, you want about a cup. So I know some of you might have had to shred it. So maybe I'll just take a breather here to let everyone get caught up. But we need 1 cup of shredded zucchini, and then you need 1/4 of a cup of granulated or white sugar, and half a cup of brown sugar. So we'll just pause for a moment here, make sure coconut oil is Blend it as best we can.
And one other question.
Yes.
We have to mix it well, is that correct?
Yes, mix it as best you can. It's gonna look honestly not very appetizing at this point, and I don't recommend eating it because of the raw egg in it or trying it right now. I just would wait till it's cooked. I promise you, once it's cooked, it will be quite delicious. So, yes, thank you guys for your questions. Yeah, there's definitely some chunks of coconut oil. That's okay. With a fork, yeah, the fork, the reason I sometimes mix with a fork is just to help break down those pieces of coconut oil. I saw someone comment with a fork. Like a mixing or a spatula or a spoon is probably easier. But as we add the dry ingredients, it'll mix a lot better. So don't worry if it's not looking the best right now. Okay, so I'm gonna slowly start adding in the other dry ingredients. We're gonna start with 1 cup of flour. So I'm gonna get my flour and we are going to do a cup. And I'm gonna add the whole cup at once because the mixture is quite like soupy right now, so it'll mix in really easily. Later on when we add the oats, it'll be a bit harder because it'll be getting thick, so then we will add So I have a cup of flour here. And I'm going to put all of it in. Okay, and we are going to have to mix this super well. I always go slow initially because it takes a while to get the flour folded in. How are we doing, Allison? Is everyone good on that end? Okay, excellent. So yeah, you can see it as soon as you add the flour, the mixture starts to get like significantly thicker, which is great. That's what we want for our cookie dough. Starting to look like cookie dough, which is promising. Hopefully yours is looking somewhat similar. You can kind of see not all my flour is mixed up quite yet, but it will be soon. Yeah, this part, it starts to get slow when you add these heavy dry ingredients in. This is just getting so thick and it's harder to mix. And try to make sure you get all the way to the bottom as well. Okay, that's looking pretty good, I would say. Okay. I'm just getting some of that batter off my spatula, so it's all mixed in. Okay, it looks like we have one question, so I'll answer that before I move on. Yes.
Can you mix it with a hand mixer?
Yes, yeah, so I said that earlier, but I'll just reiterate that if you're wanting to use a hand mixer for this, that is a-okay, totally fine. It's not gonna like over mix it or anything. Just put it on a low setting because these cookies don't have to get mixed too much. So if you're using a hand mixer, that's fine. The reason that I am not is just because not everyone has one. So yeah, and I actually got some coconut oil on my nose, so I'm just getting that off. I apologize. It's very annoying to have coconut oil on your nose. Okay, so now we're gonna go on to the next ingredient, and we're gonna add 2 cups of oats. If you're hand mixing, I don't recommend dumping it all in at once, or even if you're using an electronic mixer, because it gets very thick when we add the oats. So just 1 cup at a time is probably okay. So I have my old-fashioned oats. Really, any type of oats are, fine. So whatever you have works. So I'm gonna take my 1 cup, and I'm gonna get my first cup of oats, and I'm gonna add them in. See, that's a lot of oats, so it gets thick very quickly. So this will take a minute. So bear with me, please, if you're using the electric mixer, because this part gets hard. Definitely my arm workout for today. And you see, like on my spatula here, it's really like picking up a lot of the mix, so I just didn't fork and I just put it back in. No problems. Okay, I hope everyone is doing okay. This recipe is honestly so delicious, so I know you're absolutely going to love it. Okay, and you can, just fold your oats in sort of. And then mine's looking pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and add the next couple of oats. And it is gonna get really hard to mix, so I'll give my best effort. Okay, so then that's 2 cups of oats total. I'm just gonna set those side. And we don't have much more to add in after this, so we are going to get this right into the oven. Once again, apologies if I'm slow and you're using an electric mixer. Zucchini everywhere. Oh my gosh. And with the oats, you're almost like folding them in. So you like scoop around the side and then press them into the middle to make sure they all get in there into our batter. And really, you kind of know when you're done mixing your oats in because you don't really see any dry oats. So they should all sort of be covered in the batter and look like they're blended in well. Are there any questions, Allison? Nope. Okay, perfect. You guys are doing awesome then, is what I'm guessing. Okay, and I'm just gonna get that last little bit of batter off here. And then we're gonna add some of our final ingredients. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to add half a cup of our shredded coconut flakes. If you have any, like nut allergies or you're allergic to coconut, it's okay to leave it out for this step. Yeah, I think we'll add in half a cup of shredded coconut. This is my shredded coconut. We're going to do half a cup. I think that's not coming out very well. Sorry, my bag has a small hole in it, so this is going to take a second. Hopefully everyone is moving faster than normal. Yikes. Okay, that's enough, let's see. So I'm adding my half a cup of shredded coconut, and then we will mix that in super well. Sorry, it's just getting so thick, it really slows the mixing process down, but that looks pretty good. Hopefully your batter's looking somewhat like that. And then we're gonna add the last and my favorite ingredient in, the chocolate chips. So today I'm using these semi-sweet chocolate chips, but any chocolate chip honestly works. You can use dark chocolate, milk chocolate, whatever your preferences, but we're going to add 3/4 of a cup. So I'm actually going to use my 1/4 cup and do 3 of these. I'm if you're using the full cup, we're just going to fill it 3/4 of the way. But that's the rough estimate. And honestly, 3/4 of a cup makes these very chocolatey and delicious. So that should be enough. If you like your cookies a little bit less sweet, you can always do half a cup too. Okay, not getting many questions, so you guys must be cruising along, especially if you've been here before. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with the process. I'm just gonna try to, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but I guess I am mixing too aggressively because my spatula just broke in half. Okay, well that is disappointing. I'm just gonna grab another one here, and hopefully I don't break it because I only have 2 of them. So you see, you have to mix super hard, I guess, for this recipe. Oh my goodness, that's a first. But that spatula is also very old. I think I got it like in high school, and I've been out of high school and I've done university now, so it's pretty old to give you reference to that. Okay, whew. Well, that is super unfortunate. My favorite spatula gone because of my online camp session. I'm sad. Okay, so this mixture is looking pretty good, I would say. Just want to make sure those chocolate chips are mixed in good, or you'll have cookies with like big chunks of chocolate in them, which isn't the worst thing, of course. But okay, there you go. So those are all mixed in. So this is the final result. That's my dough, a very messy bowl. And I'm going to just put some stuff aside. And I'm actually I'm gonna go grab my cookie sheet now, and I'm going to bring it over, and I'll give you guys sort of a bird's eye view of what the size of the cookie dough is going to look like. So to scoop the cookie dough on, I'm going to use just 2 small regular spoons, just like this, and you can make them into fairly large cookies. I would say like about 2 inches by 2 inches, so probably about like that much cookie dough. And I'm gonna put 12 on my pan, and I know everyone's species might be different sizes, but I'm just gonna do a row of 3 here, right, and then 4 this way. So we will just get scooping and start adding our cookies. And like I said earlier, if you don't have parchment paper, that's fine. You can just use a spatula at the end to get the cookies off the sheet, and that should be totally good. Okay, and sorry, this part's like not the most fun to watch, so apologize. Okay, are there any questions about like the size or?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. What's the
one question is, did she put in granulated sugar?
I did. So the granulated sugar, I put in at the same time as the brown sugar. So sometimes granulated sugar is referred to as white sugar. So that's when I put it in. If for some reason you didn't, honestly, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. The brown sugar makes the cookies taste super good and sweet. So if you left that out, honestly, I would not worry. I don't think you need to go back and add it in. So I apologize. I might have called it like white sugar, and that might have been misleading. But yes, granulated white sugar are the same thing. And I did put it in a little bit earlier.
And then one other question.
Yes.
Is I have baking mats for cookies.
Oh,
is that correct?
Yes, that's perfect. Honestly, if you have baking mats, you probably bake quite often, and that's great. Yes, you absolutely can use those. And I'm almost done here. And the nice thing about these cookies is they're kind of like the last cookies we made in the other session, and they're sort of chunky. They don't have to be in like perfect neat little balls. They'll cook well like this. They will flatten a bit, so we don't want them too big. But so yeah, someone just asked how much do the cookies expand in the oven? They don't expand a ton. I'll show you right now the flattened version of the fried cookies that I made earlier. So they look like, these are the cookies after they're cooked. So they do get a little bit bigger. You can see the difference here, but not a lot. So my cookies are pretty close together on the sheet. They look farther apart, I think, in the camera view than they actually are. So yeah, it's okay if they're a little bit close. But they will expand a bit. They will, especially a bit more than the ones we made last week if you were with us. Okay, so now I'm going to go put my cookies in the oven, which is set at 350. I heard my oven beep, so I'm going to go put them in, and I'm going to set a timer on my phone for about 10 to 12 minutes, depending on your oven. Mine cooked perfectly at 11 minutes, so that's what I'm going to go for. And then I'm going to get Allison actually to set that 11-minute timer on her phone if she doesn't mind. So now I actually have about this much dough left. So see, we're going to get about another half a tray to a tray of cookies afterwards. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to switch back to the other camera view now. So we're going to turn off this one and go back to the main camera. And Allison's just going to spotlight me. And then, so now our cookies are in the oven. I did see someone ask if, do they taste good? Yes, I promise you they absolutely taste good. They should be in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes. So you'll kind of know when they're finishing because they're just like getting slightly browned around the edges. You don't want them too brown or they will be burnt. So 10 to 12 minutes at 350 degrees. These cookies are honestly so delicious. I actually think they're better than the cookies we made last time, so I'm a little bit biased towards these cookies. For storage and how long these cookies keep, they don't keep super long outside of the freezer or the fridge, usually about 3 days, just because the zucchini in them. So it's a fresh ingredient, so we want to make sure that you're not eating these cookies later on, because mold always grows from the inside out on baking. So you might be eating them, and there might be mold inside, so it's good. About 3 to 4 days is the absolute max for these cookies, and they freeze really well. So if you don't think you're going to eat them, pop them in your freezer. They're good for like 2 months in your freezer. I did see someone say my oven is really hot, so you'll probably want to do like 9 to 10 minutes if that's the case. You don't want to overcook these cookies, but you can tell when they're done, pull them out. And if they look really soft or they're not browned around the edges, that means they're not done. So just stick them back in for another minute or two. Oh, sorry, I hear something outside my window, so I apologize if that's loud. Hopefully you guys can't hear it. But someone said 10 to 12 minutes at 350 degrees. Yes, that's right. So that's actually all for now. We don't have anything else for you guys today. We'll leave it to you and your oven to finish off the cookies. Thank you so much for joining us. We always have a ton of fun at these sessions. Allison and I will hang around with our cameras off for about another 5 minutes. Or maybe we might even hang out for like another 10 minutes. So if your cookies come out and wash if they're done, you can ask us. And just put your questions in the chat box. But like I said, we hope you enjoy your cookies. Next week, we're doing a marvelous muffin session in our super healthy, tasty muffin that we're going to be making. They have a ton of ingredients in them, but I'd say they're more like apple cinnamon muffins. They're very delicious. And then the week after, we're doing easy guacamole and homemade pita chips, which is also super good. So if you guys are free, definitely sign up. We'd love to have you again. Thank you so much for following along, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.